Welcome. Today we shall be looking at the anatomy and physiology of the human brain. In this session, we will explore the structure, organization, and the functional components of the human brain. The adult human brain weighs approximately 1.4 kilograms and contains about 86 billion neurons. It is well protected by several layers, which include the bony skull, the three meningeal layers, the cerebrospinal fluid, and a highly selective blood-brain barrier. Functionally, the brain is divided into four major regions, which are the cerebrum, the diencephalon, cerebellum, and the brainstem. Each of these divisions play a distinct but interconnected role in homeostasis, cognition, and movement. The brain's major divisions include the cerebrum, which is the largest part and is responsible for higher cognitive functions such as reasoning, decision-making, and voluntary motor control. Another division is the diencephalon. The diencephalon, comprising the thalamus and hypothalamus, serves as a sensory relay and an automatic regulator. Then the brainstem, including the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata, manages the basic life-sustaining functions, for example respiration and the heart rate. And lastly, the cerebellum is essential for coordination, motor learning, and balance. Let's start with the cerebrum. The cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres which are connected by a large white matter tract called corpus callosum. Its outer surface, known as the cerebral cortex, is composed of the gray matter and is characterized by gyri and sulci. This gyri and the sulci increase the surface area for processing. Beneath the cortex lies a white matter and deep structures, for example the basal nuclei. Functionally, the cerebrum is organized into motor, sensory, and association areas that govern the voluntary action, perception, and an integration of information. This cerebrum is divided into lobes, each with a specialized function. The frontal lobe controls the voluntary movement, decision-making, planning, and expressive language such as speech through the Broca's area. The parietal lobe processes somatosensory input and spatial orientation. That includes the body awareness. Then the temporal lobe handles auditory input, language comprehension via the Wernicke's area, and memory. The occipital lobe is dedicated to visual processing, and we have a lobe known as the fifth lobe or the insula that integrates taste, visual sensations, and emotional context. Within the cerebrum, we have some key deep cerebral structures known as the subcortical structures. These structures include the basal ganglia, which comprise of the caudate, the putamen, and the globus pallidus. These structures regulate movement initiation and suppression. Then we have the limbic system, comprising of the hippocampus, amygdala, and the cingulate gyrus. This system is central to emotion and memory function. And lastly, we have the corpus callosum that facilitates the communication between the two hemispheres. Another part of the brain is known as the diencephalon. The diencephalon includes the thalamus, which is a relay station for sensory information to the cerebral cortex, then the hypothalamus, which regulates the autonomic functions and hormonal control through the pituitary gland. It also maintains homeostasis through governing the temperatures, hunger, and circadian rhythm. Then we have the epithalamus or the pineal gland, helping regulate sleep via the melatonin. And lastly, we have the subthalamus, which is known to modulate motor pathways. Another part of the brain is the brainstem. The brainstem comprises of the midbrain, known as the mesencephalon, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. This brainstem is the gateway between the spinal cord and the brain, and the midbrain processes the visual and auditory reflexes, and as well it contains substantia nigra that is crucial for dopamine production. The pons, on the other hand, connects the cerebellum with the cerebrum and regulates the breathing and sleep. And lastly, the medulla oblongata controls autonomic functions such as respiration, the heart rate, and blood pressure. It as well houses the nuclei for most of the cranial nerves, making it vital for reflexes, for example, coughing and swallowing. Then we have another part of the brain known as the cerebellum. The cerebellum is located posterior to the brainstem, and it has two hemispheres and a midline structure called the vermis. It coordinates voluntary movements, ensuring precision and accurate timing. It as well maintains posture and balance, and the cerebellum integrates input from the spinal cord, vestibular apparatus, and cerebral cortex, and is involved in the procedural memory such as learning to ride a bike. Having looked at the brain divisions, let's proceed to look at the brain vasculature, or the blood supply to the brain. The brain tissue requires continuous perfusion, and the arterial blood supply comes from the internal carotids and the vertebral arteries. These form what is known as the Circle of Willis. A Circle of Willis is a circulatory anastomosis which provides redundancy. The venous drainage of the brain occurs via the durovenous sinuses such as the superior sagittal sinus. And clinically, the middle cerebral artery is the most frequently affected territory in ischemic stroke. The ventricular system and the cerebrospinal fluid. The ventricular system consists of 4 ventricles which produce and circulate the cerebrospinal fluid. The CSF is generated by the choroid plexus at the rate of about 500 milliliters per day. It cushions the brain, it removes waste, and maintains a stable chemical environment for the brain tissue. The CSF flows from the lateral ventricles to the 3rd ventricle through the cerebral aqueduct, and then into the 4th ventricle and into the subarachnoid space. When looking at the protective membranes, the brain is enveloped by 3 protective membranes known as the meninges. The meninge has the dura mater, the arachnoid mater, and the pia mater. The dura mater is the tough outermost layer, followed by an arachnoid mater which is a delicate web-like middle layer, and the pia mater is closely adhering to the brain surface. Then we have the blood-brain barrier that is formed by tight endothelial junctions and astrocyte foot processes. This blood-brain barrier ensures selective permeability, protecting the brain from toxins and pathogens, while allowing nutrients and gases to pass through to the brain. And lastly, what are the clinical correlations to the human brain anatomy? The understanding of the brain has profound clinical implications. For example, stroke results from vascular occlusion or hemorrhage causing focal neurological deficits. Then we have traumatic brain injury, which can disrupt memory, cognition, and coordination. Some diseases, such as neurodegenerative diseases, for example Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, affect a specific brain region over time. Brain tumors as well may compress and infiltrate the brain tissue, and sometimes infections such as meningitis and encephalitis require prompt diagnosis and management to prevent any permanent damage.